Ultimately, my goal is to be a cat lady. Hello and welcome to my channel, Haylee Marie Vintage. Today, me and I guess Spooky are here to answer all the questions for my celebration 2,000 subscribers Q&A, essentially. Oh, do you have something to say? I'm gonna need you to not do this because I can't put on makeup. First of all, before I hop into questions, stop it, Spooky. A huge thank you to everybody for subscribing to my channel. I can't believe I've hit 2,000. I know that might seem like small potatoes to some people, but I am absolutely ecstatic. I never really even thought I would hit like 1,000, so the fact I'm at 2 is pretty wild and unbelievable to me. And I am super appreciative to you guys for, I guess, letting me hit this milestone. Spooky is very appreciative too because she loves the attention, obviously. Yeah. On the topic of Spooky, my first questions I will be answering are about Spooky, and I'm going to answer the questions around like thrifting, and then the questions around sewing stuff, and lastly the questions about my job and the future of this YouTube channel. So that's kind of the order of operations, so we're going to kind of get into it. I'm going to make you move, Spooky. If you're going to be here, you got to, oh God, you got to sit here. We'll see how long that lasts. Really long, I see. Let's dive into it. Is Spooky sociable, or does she want to be the only ruling cat? Spooky would love another cat. I actually also would love another cat, but right now while I'm renting, I am not interested in owning another cat. The rental market in Seattle is pretty like up and down. Like there's sometimes where it's super easy to find things, and then there's sometimes where it's super hard to find things. Like it's easy to get one cat into an apartment, but 2 starts to become a little bit more of a stretch. So while I'm renting, I don't want multiple cats. However, once I am no longer renting, I am planning on hopefully getting a couple kittens for Spooky. I think Spooky would really love that. And I would like to have kind of like 2 younger cats. I think 3 is a good number of cats to have because ultimately my goal is to be a cat lady. With that plan for my life, I do feel as though I need more than 1 cat. But yes, I am waiting until I own where I live. Hold up, I should have, okay, the next question is, what kitty treats does Spooky like? Spooky's on a strict diet, so she doesn't get treats. Don't go feeling too bad for her. She's actually not a super food motivated cat anyway. So when I do want to give her rewards, I give her like brushes or love or playing with her. She's not super treat oriented. I only give her treats when we are in medication mode, where I'm giving her medication. Next up, this is a joking question from a friend. How did Spooky lose her leg? I have a whole video about Spooky's origins that I'll post up in the eye, but Spooky lost her leg actually before she became my cat, and we believe, based on her paperwork and the fact she was found in a parking lot, she got hit by a car, but obviously we don't know this, but that is the assumption. So yeah, that's the like short answer about it. And is Spooky getting her own channel? I think this is also kind of a in-jest question from a friend, but I do kind of want to address the fact that Spooky doesn't have her own Instagram account. I don't like managing Instagram accounts, and I can barely manage my own, let alone a second cat's. So Spooky will stay on all of my channels and never have her own channels because I don't like social media enough to manage cat social media. But now we're moving into miscellaneous thrifting and such things. What was your favorite hair color, and what colors are you going to do next? I feel like picking a favorite hair color I've had is like picking a favorite child. I just can't. I've loved all my different hair colors for different reasons. But yeah, so I like don't have a good answer to that, I feel like. Then what are you doing next? I think I'm gonna go back into the green blue area. I have something very fun planned with my hairstylist. I think I'm gonna go fairly neon, which I'm excited about. It's been a while since I've had like neon hair. That's kind of the like short-term plan, and then a long-term, I can't imagine myself having normal hair color. I have recently picked up a wig, a blonde wig, for maybe if there's ever moments where I want to have a normal hair color. So I plan on like artificially having a normal hair color, but honestly I like wouldn't feel like myself if my hair wasn't a bright color. And if you want, there's a whole video on my hair history that I will also link in the eye. What do you get more excited about finding while you're thrifting? Plates, cups, and things like that, or perfect fabric, or the perfect piece of clothing? This is a really hard question because the answer is it like depends. So I get pretty excited about anything I find thrifting that actively brings me joy every time I use it after. So an example would be some of the dresses I've thrifted. Every time I put it on, it just makes me happy. I also have like these blue glass plates that I thrifted that every time I eat a bagel off of them in the morning, I just feel like joy from them, and I feel like it's a feeling that I get from objects. And then like my least favorite things I thrift are things that like when I think about moving feel like a burden. And so my favorite thrifting objects are basically anything that like I find long-term joy in and I don't like later find it burdensome. That is why I have been on this quest to be more mindful about what I'm thrifting is I always want to feel that joy about what I'm bringing into my home. Similarly, someone asked, what's your holy grail item? I feel like this sounds weird. I do not have a holy grail item. For me, everybody has their own thing. For me, it's not healthy to obsess over an item. I feel like then I make poor decisions around like financially. I get super envious and like none of those are really the vibes that I want. So I don't have any holy grail. If I see an item and it's in my budget, I buy it. If I see an item and I absolutely love it, I'll maybe save it to like a sewing pin or something like that for like a future sewing project. But I try not to like, I don't know, like really want something, I guess, especially with vintage, because you just never know if you're ever going to be able to like actually achieve what you want. So for sewing, I have a couple questions about either if you have a favorite sewing notion or machine, what would it be, or if you could have any. My favorite sewing notion is hands down vintage metal zippers. And so if I could have anything, it would be an unlimited supply of every single color and every single length of vintage metal zippers. Specifically, I think it's the Coates and Clark's zippers are my personal favorite, which is funny because I was talking to somebody who doesn't like them. It's funny because like even among your metal zippers, you have people with different preferences. That would be my number one thing I would want. For me, metal zippers are a lot better. It's funny because I also have friends who hate metal zippers and can't believe I use them. So I just love how different everybody is who sews. The next question is, what's your favorite place to get fabric? I really prefer to get fabric secondhand if I can. So Seattle Recreative, which is a creative reuse shop here in Seattle, is one of my favorite places to get fabric. And then just like if you want to find your version of that, you just need to Google creative reuse with your city name, and a shop like it should pop up. A lot of cities now do have these. They've become a lot more prevalent in the pandemic. That was almost a tongue twister. I made it through though. And I put way too much highlighter on this cheek compared to this cheek, so now I'm going to be over highlighted from what I like, but oh well. So yeah, that's like my favorite place. And then if not, I try to next, I have a couple local sewing shops that I try to purchase my fabric from, but all of them are quite small and limited in what they carry. And so if I can't get it from those two, I will eventually go to Mood. And then if Mood doesn't have what I want, I will go to the one owned by Amazon, fabrics.com. I try not to shop at fabrics.com because Amazon is not my fave company. What makes you wear the most and which do you declutter? I intentionally wore this make. This is one of actually maybe the most worn make I have. I also have it's like a little hearts dress that I made a couple years ago. I do have a video on it that I'll link. And I wear that one probably the second most. Both of these are just like kind of girly and comfy. And my other one, the fabric reminds me, it was given to me by a friend who moved across the country. And so wearing it just reminds me of her and makes me happy. And then which have you decluttered? I have decluttered pretty much all of my early makes that I made off camera, where I did maybe like a sewing basket video where I just showed you the things I sewed in the last month. That was when I was practicing and getting good and I didn't want to sew with fabric I was attached to. So I was sewing with fabric that I felt like meh about, so therefore the items I made with them felt kind of meh about, which is I think totally okay. I think that's part of learning, and I have pretty much sold all of those items, so like they're still circulating out there somewhere and making someone happy. None of those I've had to like donate. People have wanted to buy them from me. Like my items are still out there and I feel some joy in that and pride in that, and hopefully those people are enjoying them. If you have a dream project that you want to make, this kind of goes into future plans for this channel. I am currently in the process of my dream project, so I'm not going to share any details with you. It will be coming out I think in July or August, so sorry to like long-term leave you cliffhanging, but I'm so excited about this project. But because I am custom designing the fabric, it's gonna take a few months, as I don't really, this will kind of segue in. I'm a designer. I'm a UX designer right now, but my career, I started with a degree of visual communications, which was super general, which means I have illustration under my belt. So I am illustrating and custom making my own fabric. However, I don't really actually enjoy that process, so it takes me a little while. I love the products that you get out of it because it's exactly what you want, but I'm not the most talented, so I take quite a few drafts to get where I want. But I am in process of making my dream project, and I'm so excited to show you, and that will debut later on in this channel, so definitely hit that subscribe button and stay around if you want to see that. I'm so excited to show you. Okay, now we're moving into kind of the more random stuff. The first question is like, what's your full-time job and how did you get into the field? So like I said, I'm a UX designer, which is user experience designer, which means I design things like apps, websites, kind of things like that. And I'm not really focused on the visual design, even though I do that part as well. I'm more focused on the journey of the user. Like, you know, when you're using a website that's super frustrating and hard to navigate, like think about like insurance websites, which are intentionally bad UX, but that's a whole conversation for another video. But those have bad UX. So you don't notice good UX because it's a good experience for you to like navigate the site. So that is what I do for a living, and I super enjoy it. And I love it too because since I'm like seen as a creative, I can kind of wear whatever I want to work. Like I have a 1970s wedding dress that I've worn to work. I recently wore the pretty outrageous and loud cherry dress I made to work. So like I wear a lot of what I make to work. And I got into this field. I was always a really creative as a kid. I feel like that's probably not shocking. And I wanted to be creative in my job, but I also wanted to like make decent money and be able to support myself. So as a result, I like ended up pursuing graphic design. That's actually how I ended up in Seattle. There's quite a few good schools for that out here, and it's like a good city to get your first job in it. I got my first job in graphic design in print on the marketing side, and then I moved slowly over to web, which was always what I actually wanted to do. So like I said, I do have like the illustration and print graphic design chops. I just like personally don't enjoy doing that part as much as I enjoy really thinking about my user and empathizing and like making a process as good for them as I can. That's what I'm truly passionate about. And design school was interesting for me. So I am queer, and I went to Christian school for college, and it wasn't perhaps the best fit for me, which I knew going in, but it was what made sense at the time for me. Yeah, so I ended up at that school. It was kind of a weird experience. The art department, to no one's surprise, is like super gay, but like I would get called to kind of horrible things on the rest of campus, and people wouldn't like me because I was queer and I was out. A lot of my friends at that time were not out but were queer, or maybe didn't know they were queer yet. So it just was like not the best college experience for me, and I kind of felt like the school of graphic design that I learned was pretty limited and very like white and straight and male. It's called Swiss School of Graphic Design. And I just don't like, even though Swiss is arguably fundamental to UX design, I don't really actually prescribe to the Swiss way of thinking because it's very like heteronormative, and I would even argue like dives into colonialism, but this is all conversation for another video. But also like I would say there's kind of two different philosophies in design. There's form over function, so people who like something that's really pretty but maybe don't worry as much about function, think like coffee mugs with like terrible handles that look really cute. I am a function over form designer. I would rather have something work and be the ugliest thing I've ever made than make something beautiful that doesn't serve someone well. And so it's interesting being in the field because there are kind of the two different points of view, and I don't really ironically care about beauty when it's just funny because this channel feels very aesthetic based. Being a creative is super fun for a job. The team I work with is awesome. I love my team I work with, and I know I'm going to be at my company for at least a few more years because I will be up for sabbatical next year, which means I get 6 weeks paid time off. And so I'm already like thinking what I could do with that time. This job is pretty much at this point what's keeping me in Seattle. I would really like to not live in Seattle because the cost of living here is just so outrageous that I won't ever be able to afford the home that I love. I can basically afford a 1-bedroom condo here, which is not really what I want to buy. And in other places in the country, I can afford like a 2 or 3 bedroom single family home, which is what I would prefer to have. So like long term, I don't see myself in Seattle, but as long as I'm in Seattle, I think I see myself at this company. Could you see yourself doing YouTube full time? And what kind of content do you think you'd be doing? So the answer to this is an easy no. I don't think I'll ever do YouTube full time. So when I started in graphic design, I started by contracting, which is where like I would get like a 3-month contract to work, and then I would have to go find another 3-month contract. I found that really stressful, and I think being a content creator full time would be similarly stressful because I didn't like not knowing what income I would have. I would have months where my income would be high, and then I would have months where my income would be really low, and I felt like I was working 24/7 because I was always trying to get clients. I was always trying to make clients happy. Like I just really didn't enjoy it. And so I just can't see myself doing YouTube full time because the like money is similarly all over the place, and also like you have to become pretty big to be able to sustain yourself off YouTube, because like right now I make somewhere between $30 and $80 a month. Like, I don't make much from YouTube at all. And so I would have to scale infinitely, pretty much it feels like, to make an income that I would be happy with at YouTube, because like, full transparency, I'm gonna hit 6 figures before I'm 30 at my job. And for YouTube to replace that income, it would be a lot of work that I don't want to put in, quite frankly. People who are really big on YouTube, they've put in so much work to get there, and I'm not interested in putting that work. I want this to be more of a hobby and a fun thing and a way for me to express myself in a different way. So I just don't think, because of all those reasons, I will do YouTube full time. I could maybe in the future see myself, if I lived somewhere with a lower cost of living, where I could get by with a part-time job, like what I do now, but part-time. I could see myself doing that in YouTube part-time, but I can't ever see myself doing YouTube full-time. The other thing there is, like, I know I maybe seem sociable, or like I like people on this channel because I try to seem nice, and I think people would say I'm nice. It's just the idea of fame is actually my worst nightmare and terrifying to me. I don't ever want to be famous. I always want to kind of fly under the radar and like be left alone. Fame is like the polar opposite of that, so I just don't see myself doing YouTube full time. And like I said, I like my job. It makes me think differently. It even like makes me think differently about YouTube. So it's like a net positive. I need health insurance. I have too many things wrong with me to not have health insurance. And so it's a privilege to get to do YouTube as a full-time job, because you're either maybe getting insurance through your partner or you can afford insurance. Insurance is so expensive, and I need to be able to get that through my job. If insurance was not attached to jobs, I think there would be a much better chance of me ever doing this full-time. We are gonna leave on what type of content do you think you'll be doing? Even though that's like a question that was tied to like, will you do YouTube full-time? And I'm super excited about the content. I've been working on getting you guys a sewing video about every other week. We'll see. There's the week this comes out, I'll have 2 non-sewing videos in a row, but then I'll have 2 sewing videos in a row. It's just how it worked with timing. I'm waiting for the tulips to come up because I need them for a background. We're gonna have a little pause in sewing videos, and this week we'll have a fabric destash, so sewing related, but not a sewing video. The thing I think I like almost the most about YouTube is the fact that like it really motivates me to sew all my projects, because I get excited about showing it to you guys, and y'all are so encouraging about my sewing. And I also love when I get comments about things that I've inspired for other people. Because that's ultimately, like, for me, what I want this channel to be is super inspirational and accessible, and makes you feel like you can do this, because like I'm completely self-taught off the internet for sewing. And then as always, I feel like I'm kind of trying to reduce haul content. I don't feel like I've been doing a great job of that lately, and some of that is I feel like I get very consumer heavy in the winter months, but now we're going into summer months. We should have some different content for you guys, including some traveling. I will be traveling a little less than the previous year because airfare is crazy right now, and I just don't want to spend my money on that, so I'll probably be traveling more locally. I am planning on meeting up with another YouTuber that's in the area that I'm very excited about. So that's kind of what you'll see in the future. I do have a couple big trips planned that you'll definitely see some snippets of in the coming months, but I'm definitely also just like not down for the nonstop travel the way I did last summer. Last summer was exhausting, and I should not have been traveling that much. It was like not great. It was so fun in the moment, but I was so exhausted all the time. So this summer I'm keeping it way more low key. Okay, I did forget one topic, niche topic I would want to talk about if it wasn't like vintage and sewing, would I think be sustainability. I am super passionate about sustainability. Actually, on the side of this, I run a sustainable fashion blog, which I will link down below. We're going to start publishing soon, and I'm so excited. Sustainability is actually a huge part of why you see me in this like vintage and sewing journey. I could just like do a niche video about kind of like all the reasons that I sew and all the reasons I shop vintage and secondhand, just from like an ethics perspective. While there's no ethical consumption under capitalism, there are ways to be better, and I feel very, like, as a seamstress, I feel very disturbed at the treatment of seamstresses around the world, and the abuse they're subjected to. And for me, sustainability means both good practices for the planet, I mean the environment, and then also good practices for the people who make them. I want everyone to have living wage, good working conditions, and as someone with a skill set to sew, sewing is such skilled labor, and we're paying these women nothing to do it. And it impacts primarily women of color. And I just find it all disturbing. And that's like one of the big reasons I ended up in a sewing journey, is because I didn't want to be supporting like anything that is subjecting these really amazing seamstresses to harm. Wow, this video got really long. But yeah, so that's kind of like the niche thing that I would talk about, is just sustainability and all the different ways, like, I guess things are not ethical, which is kind of a depressing topic, and I try to use my YouTube as like a fun place to escape, so that's kind of why I don't go into these niches, but it's a niche that I am super like interested in, and like I said, I do explore it on the blog that I work on the side of this, which I will link in the description in case you're curious. But that now actually concludes this video. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed all of my random tangents, and again, thank you guys so much for getting me to 2,000 subscribers. I really appreciate it, and hopefully you will stick around and see that dream project I talked about, as well as all of my other sewing things that I have coming up. See you next time. Bye!